important for our mental health and for our well-being. So I'll kind of be thinking about my music therapy experience, but trying to think more generally as well, how music is helpful for all of us. So I think one of the basic things about music, and perhaps all the arts, is that music helps us to connect with ourselves, our inner world of feelings and imagination. And it also helps us to connect to others, whether it's an individual person we're playing some music with, or singing in a choir, connecting with our communities, with our cultures and so on. So music connects with us and it connects with others. And in music therapy, we're often combining those, in fact, so that through connecting with others, we help people to connect with themselves. And we do quite a lot of different things. Sometimes we help people to create music themselves. So that could be helping somebody to write a song, but it also could be helping somebody to spontaneously create their own music, improvise music using accessible musical instruments, percussion instruments, drums, xylophones, maybe vocalizing and singing, maybe movement-based work as well, movement and music-based work. And what we do as the music therapists, we sort of join in, if you like. We support the person by playing alongside them in the music. And I thought I'd give a very simple example, and it's one that I always remember really strongly because it was when I first started as a music therapist. And I worked with a little boy who was 3 years old, and he didn't speak, he had no language, he never really looked at anybody, he didn't show any interest in other people. He was later diagnosed with autism. So he came to music therapy, and he came in the room and he didn't seem very interested in anything. He wasn't interested in me. There were some musical instruments. He wasn't interested in them, but he walked around the room. So what I could do, I had the piano. So I played the piano and I played some music that matched the speed of his walking and the sort of character of his walking. So he got to the end of one end of the room and he stopped, and I stopped. And then he came back to the other side of the room and I played again, and then he stopped and I stopped again. And then something very unusual happened for him. He looked right at me and he just held eye contact with me for several seconds. And he just never, ever did that. And I think it was because that he felt how we were connected through the music, through the way that the music I played sort of matched the quality of his walking. So then he ran across the room. So then I could play faster music that was sort of in a faster tempo, and it had the character of his running. And he began to laugh. He enjoyed this connection. So that was through him moving, and I played some music to match. It could have been him playing the drum, and I could have played some music in the same rhythm, with the same sort of energy and so on. So this, being connected like this, being synchronized, being in resonance together, what we know in music therapy is that this sort of musical way of connecting is so important right from the beginning of our lives. It's our most sort of basic way of feeling connected to ourselves, feeling connected to another person, say our mother, feeling in resonance, feeling in sync together. We know there's similar things going on in the brains. So this felt connectedness, it's basic. In music, we say being in the groove together. When you dance together, you're in the same rhythm, in a choir together, in the same feeling. So this this is it's very simple. It seems very obvious, but it's so basic and it's so profound to our mental health, to our well-being, this kind of connectedness that music gives us. And also the way that we can relate and interact through music. That's such an important part, I think, of the experience of music. In a choir or in a band or in an orchestra, whatever it is, this way where we're all coming together in harmony, but we've got different parts and we can interact. Something that's very important for us in music therapy as well is the way that through music and through interacting in a musical way, we communicate our feelings. And in fact, we all do this all the time. So I could imagine that many people listening to this at some time will have said to a partner, a child, a friend, a colleague at work, you might have said something like, oh, you don't sound yourself today. You sound a bit down today. Or you might say, you sound very excited today. And it might not be the words necessarily that make you say that. It's probably the tone of voice. So it's the musical qualities of the voice that we tune into. You hear the melody in the voice. You hear the rhythms a little bit different in the voice. So what we know, again from the research of early development, is that this being able to tune into another person and connect to how they feel, and for another person to tune into us, this is sort of very basic to how we share how we feel and how we know how others feel. And that we do it all the time, even when we're speaking, we're tuning in. But music really brings this out. So in music therapy, that's why we have this spontaneous, improvised kind of music making, because we can have these little conversations that in a way are rooted back in this very early way of how we connect with ourselves, how we connect with another person. So these aspects, these kind of musical aspects, are part of our development, part of our well-being, part of our mental health, right from birth, in fact from before that, right through the lifespan. So when we're involved in musical experiences of whatever sort it is, we're connecting with very basic and important aspects of our how we develop a sense of who we are, how we develop our feelings, how feelings are regulated and shared through communicating them, all these kind of things. Listening to music, this is something else that's really important. A lot of my work involves working with listening to music. And I have this idea that music is sort of like a key worker. We've heard a lot about key workers with the COVID. So I kind of think, well, who's the key worker for the key worker? And I wonder about when a nurse goes home after a very difficult shift. I bet she might listen to some music. So I think that listening to music, I mean, that it can be almost, music can be like a person for us, like somebody who understands how we feel in a very intimate, very reassuring way. So if you think of a song, maybe you identify with the words, but also the whole feel of the song, the melody, the harmony, the whole atmosphere of it. And the song can almost say something for us, tell us something about our experience. And one of the things we know with mental health and well-being, that for all of us, we need to have the sense that there's somebody else who knows how we feel, who gets it, who's in tune with us. And the music we listen to can certainly give us a strong sense of that. That music can cover all of the feelings, the different feelings that we can have, and help us to feel them, help us to work through our feelings. And one of the things I think that's very important about this is if you think about words like, say, I don't know, sad or angry or excited, the word itself, we know what it means, but it doesn't tell us what the experience is like. Whereas music, it tells us what the experience feels like, what the lived experience of a feeling is like, what sadness is like, what excitement is like, whatever the feeling is. So music somehow tells a story about what our experience of life is, what it actually feels like, whereas words tend, especially everyday language, is much more separate from lived experience. So again, this is so important, the role of music and the arts in general. I think another aspect as well, with the guided imagery in music I do. So this is listening to music in a relaxed state and maybe visualizing something. And I made a resource for people who've got COVID-19, who've got fairly, mild to moderate disease. It's on YouTube. I think the link's on the information on the web page. And the music's very carefully chosen so that you feel the music in your body, and you feel the resonance of the music when it descends slowly in pitch, and you feel that in your body. So that the idea is that the music is quite likely to have a physiological effect. So in terms of relaxation, breathing, pulse, things like this, that it could have a helpful benefit, but that physiological effect, that kind of the resonance of the music in the body, is also the basis for maybe why it might be helpful with anxiety or depression, all these kind of things. So this is also extremely important about music, that music is grounded in the experience of the body, in movement, and this is the basis of being alive. You think about, if there's some kind of difficult feeling you have, we know that feelings always have a physiological component. There's always a body aspect to a feeling as well as a cognitive aspect. And sometimes it can be as if a feeling is sort of stuck in your body, and maybe you've got some tension in your body. Well, music with its patterned movement and flow, tension and release, the resonance in the body, that can really, I think, help to kind of access body-based sort of feeling and tension and kind of do something with it, transform it in some way. So that's so important. And then the final point I wanted to make that links with this, and it's about some of the research we have into what's called embodied cognition. So our thinking processes are very sophisticated, high-level cognitive processes, very important as they are. They are, what we now know, the research is showing, is that our cognition is all grounded in the experience of the body. It's not just abstract sort of stuff. And that creative thinking, creative imagination is extremely important, so that music and creative arts, what they do is they link the mind and our very clever thinking everyday sort of thinking and the experience of the body. They sort of bridge it. And again, for mental health, for being in contact with ourselves, in contact with others in a meaningful way, this is so so important. And the way that in the guided imagery and music work I do, where people are listening to music and sort of visualizing, a bit like dreaming awake, what happens is that people can access parts of themselves, access inner resources, access their inner creativity, find solutions to problems in a way that they wouldn't otherwise. So when I say that music's about helping us be in touch with ourselves, well, that we can access parts of ourselves and our experience that you couldn't in another way. So I guess for mental health, this is the key to it in a way, being in connection with ourselves and with others, and how music can help with that. Connecting the mind and the body, and so on. How are we doing for time, Mary? Because I did have a very an idea about something that people could try at home with drawing and music that I could share. Is there time for that?
Yeah, we have like 5 minutes or something.
Oh, okay. We'll only take 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I had an idea about something that anybody listening could try at home, just as a way of sort of just connecting with yourself, with music and art and so on. So to do this, what you would do is you would find say a song that you like, or piece of music. Short piece of music would be quite good. Not a symphony, that's a bit long, but a song about 3 minutes or something. Something that gives you a good feeling. That's the most important thing. And so that could be different music on different days. So just see what, if you're going to try this, see what music now feels like the good feeling kind of music for you. So find that music, and on your device, say if it's, I don't know, Spotify or iTunes or whatever it is, put it on repeat. So the idea is you're going to listen to the music, not then have another song and then another one, but you're going to repeat the same one. So as you're really, the feeling that song gives you, you're going to stay with that and just try to focus on that. So it might repeat a few times. Then get some paper. So it could be A3 is very good. A4 is also fine. Soft pastels are really my favorite, I have to say. Oil pastels are good, but other things are fine as well. But soft pastels are very good. You can buy them cheaply from Amazon or something. So you get your piece of paper and your pastels or whatever you're going to use. You've got your music ready. Put the music on, so it's on repeat, your song, this song that gives you a good feeling, and close your eyes for, say, 30 seconds. So when you've got your eyes closed, you're going to really try to really listen deeply to the music and the good feeling, connecting to the good feeling this music gives you. Just really try to connect with that, say for 30 seconds, and then just draw something. And I had we use, this is a very loosened up version of a music therapy method, I'm telling you. It's not really a music therapy, but there's something like this we do in guided imagery music. And the person doing it said, oh, she did a very nice drawing. She said, I did it without thinking. So this is how you have to do the drawing. If you try to do a good drawing and make it good art, it's no good. If you're connected to the feeling and the music, and you just enjoy making some marks and different colors and things, just see what happens. Maybe draw for, I don't know, 10 minutes or something, 15 minutes, keep the music repeating. And that's it, really. And it could be a very nice thing. It won't be for everybody, but it could be a very nice thing to do, just to connect with yourself, check in with yourself, access your creativity. You're linking with music, with art, which is another modality. So that's very good for the brain. Give it a title at the end, maybe write something about it, share it with a friend if you like. Anyway, just an idea, something that can be very, very nice thing to do. You know, some people do meditation or a little workout in first thing in the morning. Well, this is another thing you could do. Okay, good. I think that's it from me, Mary.
Great, Martin. That was really, really wonderful, and I'm definitely going to try that. And
Good.
anyone else who wants to try it should maybe even email them in, and we can share them with everybody if they
Be
want.
fantastic.
Yes. Thank you very, very much, Martin. So we're going to move on to Priya, who is also a music therapist, that's going to speak about music therapy from a slightly different angle. Thank you again, Martin.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Martin. As Mary said, I am a music therapist. I work for North London Music Therapy. I recently graduated last year, so I'm quite newly qualified. But yeah, I'm going to talk about the physical act of playing and how it can help your mental well-being. So music engages the brain in amazing ways. It's been used in therapeutic ways for thousands of years, and we can date it back as far as 2,500 years ago, when Pythagoras would prescribe various scales and modes as treatments for different ailments. It's used by many people worldwide as a quick and effective method to connect with one's emotions. The psychological effects can be powerful, and it's becoming increasingly clear that there's more benefits to music than just a quick boost. Music therapy in particular can have a positive impact on negative symptoms that come with mental health challenges, such as lack of motivation and social withdrawal. The nature of music therapy can provide a safe and non-invasive intervention which poses low risks, and it can be used to support people of all ages and abilities in every stage of life. As we're facing a challenging and isolating time, it's as important as it has ever been to look after your mental health. One very accessible way to do that is by playing or listening to music. This may or may not sound biased as a music therapist, but during lockdown I've seen an increase in people accessing their musical creativity. As a teacher, I've had people approach me wanting to pick up an instrument they once played, and I've also had people approach me wanting to pick up something new. A personal experience at home is my husband. He's been able to form a new band with his friends, and they've been doing this over FaceTime and Zoom, and they've all got something really valuable out of the playing aspect of it, but as well as that, they've also been able to get something positive from the connections that they've been able to maintain with each other, and this is something that his full-time office job doesn't usually allow the time for. We've also seen it during the first 10 weeks of lockdown on the Thursday night Clap for Carers. There are videos that have gone viral of musicians playing and singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, as onlookers have listened with tears in their eyes. As human beings, I believe that we all have an innate musicality within us, right down to the beating of our hearts and the pitch of our spoken voice. So why not utilise that? Music therapy can offer individuals an opportunity to express themselves through sound when words are otherwise difficult to access. Sometimes those words are just too painful, and for other people there may be physical and or cognitive restrictions that make it more difficult for them to access those words. I've worked in schools where children who aren't able to physically hold or play an instrument are able to use technology such as eye gaze to make music, and the rewards of this are remarkable. I've got a really, really fond memory of a young boy's face lighting up when he realised that he was able to manipulate the sounds by using his eyes. And that sense of joy was really authentic. I have another memory of working in a special needs school. This wasn't in a music therapy capacity, but I was running a performing arts group after school, as an after school club. And an element of performing arts is music, so part of that would be singing. And there was a non-verbal girl, probably about 14 or 15 years old, and at the end of each term, this performing arts group would aim to create a performance for the parents. So in one of our end of term performances, I was going around the group with a microphone with a song that we were all singing together, and this girl who was non-verbal sang into the microphone. And her mum came up to me at the end of the performance with tears in her eyes, saying it was the first time she'd ever heard her daughter sing. Which it was such a powerful moment. So music therapy, it's an evidence-based intervention, and it's used to address physical, emotional, cognitive and social needs. It can absolutely be externalised to playing music for yourself or with other people. It can be accessed by anyone. Since lockdown, my clients and their families have all recognised the benefits of music therapy, and all of my work has been able to move to remote sessions, as well as receiving new referrals. I've also been able to set up an online music therapy group with Carla, who is the director of North London Music Therapy. She's also the vice chair for the British Association for Music Therapy. The focus of this group is predominantly songwriting, which allows a safe and confidential space for group members to use the sessions to express themselves. We were a bit unsure how well we would be able to facilitate songwriting over Zoom, but it's been working well so far, and participants have reported positive changes in their mood. Songwriting can aid emotional processing and regulation. It's a form of self-expression, and it can connect you to your feelings as well as to other people. You don't have to be part of a music therapy group to write a song. Instruments might not always be accessible, but there are plenty of resources available which are appropriate for a variety of age groups. This can involve making your own instruments, you can use technology, and you can also use your voice. Everyone has the ability to sing. It's important to point out that you don't need to be a musician to reap the benefits of music therapy or accessing music for yourself. Research suggests that playing or listening to music at a slower tempo than your heartbeat can have a relaxing effect. This could be a useful point to remember when you're feeling particularly anxious, and listening to music at a faster tempo may have the opposite effect. Music can resonate with both your body and your mind, and the two go hand in hand. As Professor Catherine Loveday said, music reaches part of the brain that other things can't. It's a strong cognitive stimulus that grows the brain in a way that nothing else does, and the evidence that musical training enhances things like working memory and language is very robust. It's essential to recognise if you or those around you are experiencing difficulties with your mental health, and to not shy away from those challenges. Seeking support is crucial, whether that support is professional or via social connections. By nature, we as humans are social beings, and having that taken away from us is difficult. Music in any form is a means of communication, which is profoundly important when it comes to mental health. Being able to communicate can help others to understand you better. I'll end with a quote from Dr. Chris Macklin, who is a former musicologist. "Music was not a luxury in times of epidemic uncertainty, it was a necessity." I'm now going to play something on the flute. It is a piece called Aria by a composer called Dodnani. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, sorry. Ideally accompanied by piano, but that's not really possible right now, so it's just going to be me and my flute. I'll hand back over to you, Mary.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That was really, really, really beautiful. So yeah, big round of applause from all of us. That was
great. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, beautiful. I feel calmer already. So
yeah, so do I.
Work.
It totally transported me to a different place. It's so nice.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you. And I have a little puppy here and he's going crazy. So I was going to pick him up because he also loved it. He's like, what's all that noise? So thank you so much, Priya. That was really, really lovely. I'm going to hand over to Mark now, and he's going to talk about all the great work he's doing with Perspective Project.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, thanks, Priya. That was really beautiful. I was kind of sat here, vaguely looking out the big window in front of me, and really kind of melting into that. So yeah, that was lovely. Thank you very much. And also, Martin, thanks for kicking us off. Learned a lot. I never really considered music therapy from a kind of technical standpoint and what it means to someone going through a tough time. It was really interesting to hear. So to introduce myself, my name is Mark. As Mary mentioned, I am the founder of Perspective Project, as you can see in my little caption. So we're a small charity that supports artists who have mental health conditions, either diagnosed or have direct contact with a loved one or a family member with mental health. And we support artists, poets and writers creating work in any medium through giving them a platform to share their work. So initially, I'll talk a bit about how we got going. So initially online, but increasingly offline through exhibitions and gallery work, through our corporate work that we do getting art into the workplace. And on the flip side, we use art as a tool for creating greater understanding around mental health. So as Martin and Priya both touched upon, the emotional resonance that art or artistic work, so if it's music or any form of creativity, can have, we see it as a really valuable tool for creating better understanding around mental health, which, as we all know, is a very, very powerful and very emotive topic, but also very complex and requires, for someone who may not have experienced it directly, requires a lot of understanding new concepts they may not have any idea of. So the background of the project is we started around 3 years ago now, almost actually 3 years to this month. I founded it largely. So previously to Perspective Project, I did some volunteering for a phone line called Nightline. This was over in Canada, but I know they're UK based as well. And what they do is provide a crisis call line for individuals who want to phone up about anything on their mind. So it could be a mental health crisis, it could be something in their personal life, it could be anything really, similar in style to the Samaritan's phone line that is quite popularly used. And the connection that I thought, which may not be initially apparent and wasn't at the time, between that and art, is the fact that what people value from organizations like Nightline is having a space in which they can express themselves, and that their expression, in whatever format it is validated and accepted, and that the space in which they're expressing themselves becomes this therapeutic space. So from my perspective, I saw an analogy there to giving someone a space to say, I've created a piece of work, maybe writing or poetry or a short story, pottery, embroidery, whatever it is that is an expression of honest expression of their mental health, or an experience with mental health, or contact they've had with a mental health experience, and putting it in a space that is going to accept it for what it is, accept that the story is valid, accept that their experience is valid, and what we would then do is put it out to the world and say, what you've done is valuable, and here's a platform to display it. So we started as a small Facebook page, rapidly expanded from there. So we've got a few branches in different countries. So we've got a Greek branch, an Italian branch. We have a few supporters over in some countries in Southern Africa, looking at broadening out this approach of saying art and expression is valuable from two perspectives: for the artists themselves, and as I touched upon at the start, for people viewing the art. So I thought today, that's a bit of background of Perspective Project. I thought what I'd talk about very briefly, and I won't talk for too long, and I think it's a really interesting topic, both from an art perspective, but also the music side. So I'd love a bit of discussion at the end of this. At the end would be really fantastic. So a few things I wanted to touch upon that have emerged from my time working with Perspective Project. And to caveat this, I don't have the clinical training of Martin and Priya. So this doesn't come from a perspective of, you know, I'm not a practicing therapist. I'm actually not hugely artistic myself. I'm more just the operational side of putting the support mechanism together and putting this platform together. So a couple of themes that I've seen emerging from the artists and the poets and the writers and the people we work with. First of all, the idea of art as escapism. Second of all, and I'll talk about these in more detail and a bit of my thoughts around that. Second of all, art is introspection. So in a certain sense, there's a corollary there with escapism, but art is introspection. And also, as Martin and Priya both touched on really nicely, art is connection as a mode for individuals to connect, as a mode to bring societies together and to bring people together around a common theme. So all of these themes have emerged and these patterns have emerged looking at the hundreds of submissions we've had. So we have over 250 artists from around about 50 countries. We've had thousands of submissions. So I've been privileged enough to have a lot of work shared with our organization, and I've seen quite a few themes emerge over the last 3 years. So in terms of art as escapism, many of our artists display or seem to suggest through the captions they provide and the talks we have with them about their work, that in a way that their art allows them to get outside of themselves in you know, mental health, as we all know, and as you'll have studied or seen with yourself or family or friends, is a very consuming and all-consuming thing. So you think of the metaphors for depression as, you know, the black fog or things that are all-consuming around your body and your mind. A lot of artists are reporting that they see this art as a form of escapism, that they can get outside of themselves through their art. So they can immerse themselves in this external thing, whether it's a piece of work, whether it's a pot, whether it's a, you know, embroidery work, to get away and concentrate on something that's outside of themselves and over which they have a certain level of control and order. The second, and I think I'd love to hear Martin and Priya's thoughts especially, but all of your thoughts really on whether the idea of art as introspection versus escapism is necessarily a contradiction or is perhaps an extension of the same theme. So by art as introspection, what I mean is creating a piece of work that is all about processing what is internal and the experience you're going through. So aside from getting it out of yourself and almost, you know, the difference between covering your ears and actually examining something and working out why you're feeling that way and putting order and possibly sometimes giving order to what may be confusing emotions or what may be emotions that you don't understand yourself. And in a way, sitting in those feelings, processing them, drawing out of what can be often extremely negative and destructive thought patterns or feelings, something positive and creative, or maybe not positive in the sense that it doesn't have to be happy, but positive in the sense that it's a creation of something new out of what wasn't there before. So I had this conversation quite a lot with people we work with and the artists, whether escapism and introspection is necessarily a contradictory state, or it kind of can happen in flux, or if it's more complementary than it first seems. And as I mentioned, the third theme that I think draws together the project and is why we've been able to grow and operate so fantastically over the last 3 years, and why we're so proud of the work we do is art as the form of connection. So as we all know, mental health is such a common experience. It's so widely shared, and yet we have we talk a lot about mental health stigma as well. It's a very, you know, it's a hot topic at the moment. It has been for a number of years now. But I think we are still crying out for modes of connection around mental health. So if we take the workplace as an example, I know it's quite an extreme example because workplaces can be extremely, you know, stigmatized around a lot of topics. But if we take the example of, could you over a water cooler say to your colleague, I'm feeling depressed today, or I've been in therapy this morning, I'm not in the right headspace for work, I need to go home. I would possibly suggest that's a really tough conversation to have. I know a lot of people are having those conversations more and more, and power to them. But what I would say is the way that we see art in a certain respect is a way of taking these big complex issues like mental health, these big powerful issues that are extremely emotive, and giving them a substance outside of the normal realm. So if you're in the workplace, and what we do at the moment is we lease artworks to offices which are very explicit about mental health and have a caption and talk about mental health. And what we believe at Perspective Project is if you go to a colleague and you talk about this piece of art in a more abstract sense, whether you share emotions around the art, whether you can identify, whether you can say to your colleague, you're right, I felt exactly like that for the last 2 years. We see it as a mode of starting these conversations in a way that perhaps society is not quite ready for. We're not quite ready for going straight at the topic of mental health all the time. And on a similar vein, so I always take my mum as an example. So she's never had the benefits that my generation has had of learning about mental health at a younger age and being around the topic more. And when she comes to our exhibitions, when I talk to her about what she's experienced when she's seen the art and engaged with our artists, for example, that level of understanding, that connection that you can have through a piece of art is so much more powerful than often you get through either if it's, diary journals or anything around pure statements of fact around what mental health is. So the statistics are so widely shared, but I know that I can't be the only one who has a bit of fatigue when they see these stats that start to lose meaning. So for us, the idea of art as connection is really about connecting with that emotive side of everyone's personalities, as Martin and Priya mentioned so nicely. Everyone has this innate creativity, or most people have this innate desire to connect with things that are creative and see emotions and see complementary ideas in pieces of art in front of them. So the idea of escapism, introspection, and connection, I think, is really emerged with our artists. And as I mentioned, what we want to do really is create a platform for this. So many of our artists have never had a space to share their work. We often get told that people create this art. So Martin and Priya, your clients, will no doubt be creating, if it's music, they may be creating in other ways, creating this work, maybe even wanting to share this work. And often, I think, when we talk to artists, the barrier that we see is what, Martin, you touched on very briefly, which is that quality is, for us, not important. That, and if you check out our social media and our online gallery, so if you check out Perspective Art Project across social media, quality, whatever that means in terms of, who's to say what's quality in a kind of, in a conceptual sense, but quality is not important for us. It's not about fine art. It's not about whether something has artistic merit. It's about the process that's gone behind it, and it's about the outcome and the output of that. So we feel the benefit of what we do is giving this platform to people who've never had a chance to share their art before, or don't feel their art is correct for either the traditional art world or just good enough to be shared in a professional capacity. And the other thing I want to touch upon briefly is the modes in which we promote this connection. So one of the big things that we love doing at Perspective Project is open mic nights. So before lockdown, we'd started, for a couple of months actually before lockdown, we've been running open mics in London very successfully. Just started broadening out to different cities. So we had a few in Norwich up until lockdown. And we really see this as a very organic way of connecting around creativity, giving someone a mic of which to share. We call it unfiltered, so it's very much, we want people to share what they're comfortable sharing, but not feel like they can't share something based on the taboo around the topics in which they're discussing. So we want to create this space to connect, whether it is open mics, whether it's the workshops we run, whether it's our digital spaces. We really believe that this idea of connection is extremely vital to the work we're doing about combating stigma and supporting individuals. So the very last thing which I wanted to touch upon, and which I've sort of danced around through the whole thing, is this idea of stigma. And I think our art and creativity has a big role to play when we talk about fighting stigma. From my perspective, and again, I'd love to hear more thoughts from the rest of you guys about what you feel the powerful forces are at play here. But from my perspective, I think fighting stigma and creating a society that's more open and accessible around talking about mental health, but also has a more supportive pathway from prevention, diagnosis to treatment and aftercare, for me revolves around two things. And the first one I think is education. Well, let me say before this, the main thing I think is government funding for better services. But beyond that, I think the two main aspects are education. So making people understand what mental health is a crucial step for fighting stigma at a societal level. People simply don't have the understanding or knowledge, not through any fault of their own, but through the fact that we haven't taught people traditionally what mental health really means, the impact it has on people, and why it occurs and how it can be treated. So education. And the second one is empathy. And I think the general lack of empathy that many individuals have towards people with mental health is partly due to a lack of exposure or perceived lack of exposure to the issue. It hasn't affected them. They don't think it affects people they have been around. But I think also it's tied to the fact that we don't talk about mental health in society in a powerful and normal way. And I think across education and empathy, art, music, creativity has a big role to play in both of these. First of all, for what I mentioned earlier, which is you can reach people who you might not reach otherwise. So my mum, for example, probably won't be going to a seminar about mental health, probably will be going to an art gallery at some point. So seeing art as a mode of connection, as a mode of saying art can have this material use, which is to say the experience of the artist, the mental health condition, for example, of the artist, or the experience of mental health the artist has had, can be transmitted through the art they produce, and that experience can be extremely enlightening for the viewer. The second thing around the empathy is, of course, as we've touched upon, art is extremely emotive. It connects you on a deep level. And if we're trying to say, okay, mental health is not just something that needs to be understood, it's something that needs to be truly empathized with. It's something that requires societal action and change at a societal level. Therefore, we must be reaching people in a way that's engaging and engages their emotions. So for me, art is such a vital tool, and I mean art to encompass the whole creative spectrum from music to all forms of expression. And for me, it's been a journey of understanding and realizing how many people use art for that and the power it can have on society. But I'd love at the end of this, once we've all had our say, to discuss the issue more widely. I think it's a really interesting topic, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Carla and Poetic Justice as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. That was it was really, really great, and yeah, it would be really good to chat some more about everything that you brought up. So I'm going to, as you mentioned, hand over to Carla, who's going to talk about key changes.
Yeah, thank you, Mary, and thank you, guys. I feel a bit like going after all of you with all your expert knowledge. No pressure, but no, so interesting to hear about this whole theme from all these different perspectives. It's just so interesting, and as you were saying, Mark, it's like I feel like I've actually learned some stuff in just this last hour. So I'm really pleased that we were invited and we were able to come along. It's just such an interesting and important conversation. I think we could probably all talk for hours about music and mental health and the arts and creativity, but I probably won't be talking for nearly as long. I don't have as much kind of broad knowledge to bring to the table, but I do want to tell you all a little bit about key changes, and clearly it's so relevant to all of your guys' work, maybe even from a slightly different perspective, which is great. So good. So just to give a little bit of background about Key Changes, it's a small charity. We've actually been going for over 20 years is when we first started. I wasn't around then, not involved in Key Changes, but it actually started out from a group of inpatients at a mental health hospital in London, in Islington. and it was a group of inpatients who were obviously musical, and probably extremely bored and out their heads, just like going through a difficult time, and just really wanted to be able to express themselves, to get into a space where they could just be them, and make music together. So I think essentially it was a bit of a jamming session, and I think then from there it became a little bit of a group sort of open mic karaoke type of thing. So that obviously was a long time ago, and since then a lot has changed. And we now, today, we offer music recovery and engagement services across the board in mental health settings, so in inpatient settings, across all different types of mental health hospitals. So we have a big sort of offering and service where our what we call music mentors, producers, go into hospitals, and they provide workshops, open mics, and they do one-to-one pop-up studio sessions, so songwriting, recording, production, beat making, emceeing, rapping, lyric writing, all of that stuff. So I think it kind of essentially started out in that sort of context. And then over the last maybe almost a decade, 6 to 10 years, we've kind of expanded into the community, and we now offer programs within the community around a similar sort of theme. So offering a mentoring program which is all about creative collaboration for artists, musicians who have mental health experience. So I didn't prepare any notes, so I'm just kind of talking away, if that's all right. But yeah, so as I was saying, so the kind of the strapline of the charity is promoting positive mental health through music. And as I say, we're essentially, we are a service for anyone and everyone. Anyone can refer themselves into our programs, but who have experience of mental health, but also are musical or aspiring musicians, aspiring artists, and kind of want to get themselves out there. We also do concerts and events. We get involved. We partner up with other organisations across London. We are mainly based in London, but we've been involved in projects all over the UK. And in this last year, we've introduced a new programme that has been rolled out. London, also Bristol, and we're looking into sort of Sussex area as well. So reaching out to hospitals as well as the community there. So that's a kind of all of the sort of services we offer. We also have a volunteering program. So for service users, artists who have come through to our programs and complete the program with us, we then have a progression opportunities for them to join an in-house volunteering program, which gives them a chance to learn other skills, life skills, and have an opportunity to give back to the charity and to help promote us by kind of across different social media platforms, but also live performance opportunities, and just going out there and spreading the word and sharing their awesome music. One of which our artists is the amazing Poetic Justice, and I think it'd be really nice for us to hear from Poetic in a few moments, just about his, you know, from the side of being an artist with Key Changes, what his experience has been, and you know, I'm sure, he's got some really awesome things to say about his own story and his music as well. So my role with Key Changes, so I manage our programs that are in the community. So we have a couple of programs, and the main one that I predominantly manage is called the Music Industry Recovery Program. So we come from the approach. So like I guess kind of like Mark was saying, so like obviously you're a music therapist, you've got, you know, this amazing sort of background knowledge, and you've come from a slightly more clinical perspective. We are music industry focused, so we use a music industry approach, and we bring it into mental health and healthcare. So it's quite niche and it's quite unique. So we are offering vulnerable people adults, young people, any age, people who, as I said, have mental health experience, who want a voice, need that safe space. So kind of similar to, I think, what everyone's been talking about. I think essentially, you know, that's where everything, you know, it does absolutely overlap, is we offer that safe space. For an artist to come in, we have studios in London, and they come in and they sign up onto a program. So it's a structured program, and the idea behind it is that they are working collaboratively with a music mentor, who is someone in the industry who is a producer and can mentor in kind of songwriting and production. Work with them over a particular amount of time to write original music that becomes song, that gets recorded, gets produced to a really nice, high quality standard. So there's that feel good factor, so that you can come from anywhere, any background, any level of talent or experience, but you can come into the studio, you can have this awesome experience where you're behind the mic, you're at the mixing desk, and you're getting involved, and you're writing music with a professional producer. And the idea is, over that time, we're working towards an outcome. So it's got like lots of different aspects, which I think are really, really unique and really positive. So bringing in that structure and kind of working towards that goal of having like a tangible product to share at the end of it. So yeah, so they come through, they write their music, they work with a mentor over 12 weeks, and with the idea of having a few tracks at the end of that. And then we offer artist development. So we have professionals from the music industry, people that we have on board, we call our artist development mentors, who have lots of knowledge about the industry and about how to kind of, we use terminology, so like wrap up a project and get a single or an EP or an album ready to actually release. And a couple of years ago, we launched the first ever, globally, the first ever record label specifically for people with mental health problems, to get their music out there. So just Key Changes Records. So since then, we've had this added sort of aspect of the program where people can actually release their music, and they become artists available to buy, to listen to book for gigs. And yeah, so you can find any of our artists on Spotify and YouTube, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube, Amazon Music. So it's kind of coming from that sort of aspect, so like from the music industry perspective. Yeah, and then beyond that, so we obviously offer opportunities to perform. So like I said before, we get involved in lots of concerts and events in the public arena, and yeah, and so we give these opportunities to anyone who wants to kind of sign up to it. Obviously there's more to it than that, but yeah, I'm trying to think if what else is going to be interesting to tell you about. I mean, it's a kind of, yeah, open floor, open conversation, and if anyone has any questions, feel free. But that's kind of like essentially the programs that we offer. And I do think at some point when Poetic Justice feels comfortable, you might just feel like sharing a little bit about your story and a bit about your experience coming onto Key Changes. How do you feel about that? Awesome, he's got a thumbs up. So yeah, Poetic, do you want to tell us a little bit about I guess your experience from a mental health perspective and how you came about Key Changes originally?
Yeah, yeah, thanks Carla, thanks everyone. It's been a really amazing listening to everyone. Yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, Key Changes has been like a really amazing, life-changing experience for me, kind of like from the perspective of like, recovery recovering just like from, you know, well, for me, it's like an ongoing thing, but yeah, just like it's really helped me in my recovery from mental health illness, and also, yeah, and then the music side of things, you know, because yeah, I've you know, for like, you know, I've kind of always wanted to be involved with the music, but it's not really until I made some, you know, like some changes in my life that it became possible, you know, like key changes has been a really big help in kind of actually helping me to like make music and release music. Before I started going to key changes, you know, I just, yeah, I was going nowhere really. Yeah, but yeah, and I guess like yeah, what can I say? Like yeah, it's just been interesting listening tonight, you know, because like mostly everyone's talking is like, you know, a music therapist or kind of, you know, sort of like part of an organization offering services for like people with mental health illness. I guess like yeah, I've been a service user for key changes. I mean, with key changes, now I volunteer and release by the record label. Yeah, but it's just been like an amazing experience, key changes. You know, I think it's really great nowadays that like you can just like, if you want to be in your bedroom, like make a song and release it to the world from your bedroom, you know. But I just feel like I'm really grateful that I've had the opportunity to be with key changes and to like, you know, be creative and kind of build something with other people as well, you know, because it's like, yeah, I mean, sort of, I'm at key changes quite regularly. Like, you know, if I'm not in the studio there, then I'm at the like weekly volunteer session where we do our training. We have like special guests, some really amazing special guests, you know, because like I've always enjoyed, like I've always thought key changes was amazing, but like now sometimes I just think like, how do they do it? You know, the people, the special guests we get there, it's like, yeah, I kind of think like they kind of consistently get these like really amazing special guests to come and talk with us. And
I think it's, do you know what, like on that, I think it's not even about us as key changes. I think it's just such an important, like we've all been saying, you know, like if people in the industry have experience, which everyone does really, and so many people in the music industry have experience of mental health, they want, you know, they want to share their experiences and their expertise and their knowledge, and so we've been lucky to have some really awesome people come on board. And yeah, that's something I didn't mention, but as part of the program we do have this weekly thing, and Poetic Justice is a fantastic volunteer with us, and gets involved every week. Our sessions are online at the moment, but we have this music industry awareness session, and so we have a guest speaker every week. They might be, you know, music management, tour promotion, marketing. Might be an artist who's actually in the industry, a successful artist. Just come to, yeah, just to share and also listen. And they provide A&R feedback. We do performances, and we always get our guests to provide you know, feedback for our artists, and just encourage really, and share tools and resources and stuff. So that's been really interesting, hasn't it?
Mm.
How long have you been involved in key changes, Poetic?
I think about like must be about 4 or 5 years now.
It's been a good run, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And you've just been working with, he's been doing another program, and you've already released one EP, haven't you?
Yeah, released an EP and a single with key changes, and now hopefully a second EP on the way.
On the way, yeah, exactly. So yeah, hopefully kind of just gives a little bit of a an idea of kind of what we do, what we're all about. I'm sure I've missed loads, but I would definitely encourage, if you guys are interested, to look us up online. We're on across all social media, Key Changes Music, London. And yeah, we've got a lot of resources and information about what we do out there. Yeah, I was going to ask actually, Mark, your project, where are you actually based, and where do you hold your like open mics and things like that?
Sure. So we are based in London. So I'm in Victoria as we speak. We have open mics. Most of our events, to be honest, are spread out. So our open mics are in London and Norwich.
Okay.
In terms of exhibitions and events, we've done workshops in Newcastle, galleries in Durham. We're looking at branching out to some stuff in Bristol, a lot of stuff in the east of England where I'm initially from. So
Nice.
all over the place, really. It's the benefit of being we're a small charity as well. Benefits of being, for us, quite flexible, quite digital, and we try and partner as much as possible in the work we do.
Good. Yeah, I think partnering is really important.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And you can achieve so much more. As you mentioned, people are, especially in this sector, so willing to collaborate.
Yeah.
And I think there's an important role for individuals who have higher profiles, for organisations who have the capability to target mental health as an area of community support. I think it's so vital.
Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, I think that's from me. Yeah, enough from me. But if anyone's got any questions, obviously.
We have poetic songs. I don't know if if anyone has any questions for each other, and then we can play poetic song at the very end, or do you want to?
I'd love to hear some music.
Yeah. Okay. So Poetic Justice, do you want to just say a little bit about the song, and then I'm going to share my screen and we'll play it.
Yeah. So this is a song. It's called Back on Top, or some people call it Back on Top. Some people call it The Fade. I made it at the Key Changes studio. No, well, it's kind of the official name. If you see it in writing, it's like Back on Top, The Fade, but that's a bit long-winded. So I think usually people either call it Back on Top or The Fade. A really amazing producer. His name is Zaflon. Yeah, and it's just basically I was in the studio and I was a bit like, I think I had a bit of writer's block, and but I just remembered I'd been feeling like a bit depressed, as I do sometimes, and I just remembered that I'd been to the barbers and I'd had a haircut. They'd given me a fade, and I felt like so much better when I left the barbershop. So Zaflon was like, yeah, why don't we make a song about that?
Such a good inspiration. It's amazing what a good trip to the hairdresser or barber can do for your mental health, isn't it?
Sometimes it can have the opposite effect if you don't get what you want, but
actually that's true.
Often easy if you do it yourself as well, I find.
the lockdown haircut.
Lockdown trim has been achieved.
Okay, so I'm very, very, very happy to be playing this song for you. So I'm just going to share my screen and play it for you. So just bear with me.
The audio will work.
So put it on big screen. And here we go.
Positive mental health. Justice. Right now it's me against the world. Why do I feel so low? Is it my time to go? Rude boy, is you friend or foe? Because how you're acting, I don't know. I want to keep this to myself, but I know if I isolate, I'm gonna start running out. So it's time to go outside and be at one with the world, despite how I'm feeling. Get some spiritual healing from the sun's rays and dream about better days. But I'm not lost in dreams. I'm working cause hard work pays. Oh shit, my headpiece is looking off key. I've been trapped in the maze. I have been outside for days. I need some play. I was feeling depressed, so I went and got a fade. Now I'm back on top of the game like a man that's made. I walked into the barbers, my tune was getting played. Said I'll be a sorrow, make music my trade. I was feeling depressed, so I went and got a fade. Now I'm back on top of the game like a man that's made. barbers, my tune was getting played. My tune was getting played. Said I'll be a star and make music my trade. Music my trade. My music don't pay the bills yet, so off to work I go. I don't sell drugs, I sell phones. It's cool, I get to church goes, and I don't get harassed by the popo. I smell sweet like cinnamon, thanks to my cologne. I'm the man to come check if you want a new dog and bone. I'm the MC to holler if you want a hot show, with people going nuts from the back to the front row. I'm looking to make lots of dough so I can help build a better world of which poverty didn't exist. I want everyone to exist in a state of pure bliss. I ain't taking the piss, watch this space. I was feeling depressed, so I went and got a fade. Now I'm back on top of the game that's made. I walked into the barbers, my tune was getting played. I was feeling depressed, so I went and got a fade. Now I'm back on top of the game like a man that's made. I walked into the barbers, my tune was getting played.
Not sure what's happening.
The nights when I come alive, watch the riders, Fox used to say, big up all my people inside the venue. I made this one especially for you. Every day's like a battle, don't be a chattel. Fight for your freedom, fight for your dream. Don't be ashamed, be unique. Seek and use your find, so dig deep into your soul. Find the hidden treasure, your value cannot be measured, you're priceless. Beware of your vices, cause mine led me to a near-death crisis. I cheated death, and now I'm the nicest MC on the planet. Building my reputation like Janet. Now I'm back on top of the game like a man that's made. Into the barbers, my tune was getting played. They said I'll be a star and make music my trade. I was feeling depressed, so I went and got a fade. Now I'm back on top of the game like a man that's made. I walked into the barbers, my tune was getting played. They said I'll be a star and make music my trade. I was feeling depressed, so I went and got a fade. Now I'm back on top of the game like a man that's made. I walked into the barbers, my tune was getting played. They said I'll be a star and make music my trade.
Yay. Well done, Poetic.
Loved it.
It's really catchy, isn't it?
It's a really catchy beat. I was like bobbing along.
And that's just one example of Poetic stuff. Poetic, where can people find your music to actually go and listen to?
Well, so the first EP is on Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Music if you'd like to stream it. I think probably the easiest way to find it is if you just search Poetic Justice and add at the end L for London, D for dog, N for, I don't know,
Numpty,
yeah. Like then you'll find it. And then and the single that was just released recently, for some reason I don't think that's on Apple Music.
It's on YouTube though.
No, it's on YouTube and it's on Spotify.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Spotify as well. And also just to say as well, like, but all my music is also available on Bandcamp as well. And yeah, so that's where it's available.
I really recommend going to have a proper listen. Put the volume up. I don't know whether there is an issue with the audio there, but yeah, some really good beats coming through there. Just makes you want to just bop. You have that thing about you, Poetic.
Thank you.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, both of Poetic Justice and Carla from Key Change. So yeah, it's been an amazing evening sharing everyone's knowledge and stories. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for each other before we go.
I was thinking about what Mark said about the thing about escapism and introspection, and connections. I was thinking about that because I think that comes up in my work. So, for example, I had a lady come to see me for guided imagery and music, and she said, my son's died, and she said, I love music, but I can't listen to music at the moment. Because what she meant is that music is so emotionally powerful putting music on. She was flooded with emotion. So we worked together, and we went stage by stage, and it came to a session when she said, now I feel I need to say goodbye to my son now. So she was able to do it, and she visualized her son, and she said goodbye to him in a very powerful way with music. So the music held the feeling. So that's, I think, a bit like what you're saying, introspection.
Yeah.
So it's about really going into something difficult and painful, staying in it and allowing something to be sort of experienced and worked through.
Yeah.
So that's, you might say that's like a primary sort of therapeutic function of music, to do something like that music can tell the story of something important and painful maybe in our experience. And even if it can't make what's difficult go away, it can help us accept it. It's part of what is, and so on. And that lady, though, she, after that session, things changed a lot for her. And she said, oh, I'm singing again. I've joined the choir again. So then she's back to a different sort of music experience to do with well-being and community and so on. And so then I was thinking about the idea I shared, this thing you could try at home, drawing to music. So that way of working, when we do that, getting people to draw with their experience, sometimes we might do that to help somebody to work on something difficult and painful, and to really, really stay with that, the introspection part. So that's important. But people also need to have good feelings and positive feelings. And so we also work with that as well, because sometimes life is difficult for everybody. Life is stressful and everybody's busy, and we all have our difficulties. Let's face it. And people die, all this stuff. So it's so important to be able to, what you call escape. I mean, there's something very positive to be able to have positive moments and experiences that are supportive of our well-being. So we also work with people to help them access that positive, good feeling, and through music and through drawings, for example, is one way of doing it. So they can be both sides, I think. What you call it is escape, to have to find a good feeling, to feel good, to something ordinary, just to enjoy, I don't know, ordinary things. And there's a time for, if you're bereaved, you do need to feel the pain of it sometimes, and that's what you have to do. So I think there's both things for me. I think and you need to sort of a balance. There's a time for each.
You're right, and thanks, Martin. That's a good insight, because actually perhaps you're right. The way it's framed, that I framed that question, you're right. There's always a space for what many people call self-care, or things that, you're right, bring joy. And actually, you know, who are we to say that you can't always be the tragic artist deeply immersed in introspection, or you can't always be processing these complex emotions through everything you do. And actually, music can be a way to just care for yourself and exist beyond that. I think that's really, thank you for that insight. I really enjoy that.
But it's very interesting to hear. This is one of the things that you've noticed, that
it's so common. It's as I mentioned, we always ask for captions to come alongside the art, and you'll be surprised how powerful and like blunt the captions are. Just really straight down the line of, here's my experience, here's what I went through, here's my diagnosis, but also the recurring themes that are present throughout. And one day I really want to go back and even just analyze, the key words and key phrases that come up, because there's so many recurring motifs, but also things like introspection and escapism just really sort of are teased out by many people.
Lovely. It's lovely. We're all connected, doing something similar, aren't we? We're all,
100%.
I feel like we're all part of something.
Yeah.
It's been very nice. I've really enjoyed listening to everybody. And
me too. Thank you, everyone. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we all have our mental health issues. Everybody. It's called being human, basically, isn't it? And so it's nice that we all share that, but we can also all enable others in our different ways and all sorts of things. It's fantastic. It's really nice.
Can I add to the idea of introspection and escapism?
Please, yeah.
I feel like in some ways when it's talked about, there's a bit of split between the two. But I wonder if escapism and introspection can kind of inadvertently complement each other. I think, like, thinking along the lines of escapism, creating music, creating art, there's something really cathartic about it. But it's still a communication. And we're still expressing kind of something that's really personal to us. And I wonder if that can kind of be maybe less difficult form of introspection.
So the fact that it comes from, it all comes from within, therefore it's, in a way, it's all expressing what is within. And even if it's escapism, it's still an expression of what is an honest, valid feeling. And it's yeah, you're so right. Yeah, totally. And I think what is really interesting in how that manifests in the art that we see is that there's often this dichotomy of art that is all about the body. So there's so many kind of exploding heads or shrouded figures, or, you know, it's all very bodily or very head oriented. And then on the flip side, we have a load of art which is much more abstract, much more based on anything external. It could be, you know, woodlands or landscapes or you know, animal drawings or embroidery. And yet what they say about the art is exactly the same. It's all, you're right. Even though perhaps I've stumbled into seeing the kind of the landscapes as escapism, but actually no, it's all the same. It's all an expression of an internal process and emotion. Yeah, interesting, Priya.
It's just final thoughts maybe from maybe if we run through for each of us, and maybe say anything you want really, but maybe at home for people, what you recommend they should do for looking after their well-being, perhaps, or how they can get involved in your charities. Volunteering is also another good way for your mental health. So.
Definitely.
Mark, do you want to go first?
Yeah, yeah. So from a Perspective Project point of view, if you create art of any type about mental health or about your mental health or someone you know, and you want to share it with the world digitally or in the UK offline in exhibitions, get in touch. We really, when I say we don't care about quality, I really mean we are entirely open to all mediums and all styles and all qualities. So please just get in touch and don't feel like we're going to reject you. We don't turn anyone away in terms of the stuff we host. So please get in touch. Similarly, organizations working in this space, we love to collaborate. So follow us on socials. If you search Perspective Project, you'll get to us eventually. We're usually quite high up the list. So reach out, talk to us, drop us an email. We're a small team and we love to do creative stuff. So yeah.
Thanks,
thank you.
And I'm just going to go along the screen. Carla, what about you?
I guess it's similar to what Mark was saying, obviously coming from the perspective of another small charity, obviously with our focus on music and artist development for people who want to actually you know, have their voice heard, make music and share it with the world. I mean, yeah, there's just so much we could say about just the importance and just the amazing, you know, ways that music can really help us for ourselves, but also sharing it can really actually help others as well. So I just encourage people to share if you feel that you're musical and you've got something to share, you've got something to express. Actually, you know, it's so therapeutic to express yourself and to do it for yourself, but also it could actually really speak to other people as well. And we're all about just providing those opportunities and those tools for people to really feel like that they can actually get their voice heard and they can get their music heard. And just have a lot of fun with it as well. So with us as well, if you just search Key Changes Music on all socials, we've got a website as well where we have contact form and anyone can contact us if they want to to find out more, and also similar to what Mark was saying, we're always keen to see if there's any ways of partnering up with other organisations as well. So yeah, just get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Carla. And Priya, any final thoughts?
It's been a really, really interesting evening. Thank you everyone for your words. In terms of music therapy, like I said, I work for North London Music Therapy. We are on socials. We are taking referrals at the moment as well. So on Facebook and Instagram, it's North London Music Therapy. On Twitter, it's NL Music Therapy. We have also set up a phone support system for frontline workers. Anyone kind of on the front line of COVID, like if you're a nurse, doctor, working in supermarkets, you're a teacher, it's a complimentary service. Again, you can refer via our website, northlondonmusictherapy.com. Really proud to say that this service has also been nominated for an award, the AHA Esteem Award, which we're really proud of. Yeah, the phone support service is still in place. It has been since the start of lockdown, so anyone who needs it, just head our way.
Great, thank you, Priya. And Martin, you, any final thoughts?
Well, there's my guided imagery and music resource for anybody who has COVID, or actually it's just a very nice thing for relaxation anyway. That's online. I think the link's on the website. I was just thinking about this with songwriting and stuff like that, and some of the work we've been hearing about. I remember years ago there was a workshop on the television with Paul Simon. It was about songwriting, and he said if you want to write a song, you have to ignore the voice in your head that every time you come up with an idea it says that's no good. So I think a lot of people have a voice that somewhere that tells, oh, you're not musical, that's no good, and you have to ignore that. So yeah, don't worry too much about the voice that says that's no good, just carry on anyway.
Good advice, definitely.
Yeah, that's my final thought.
Thank you very much, Martin. And finally, to end, Poetic Justice, do you have any final things you'd like to say?
Yeah, just want to say a big thank you to everyone. It's been like really great listening to you all. Yeah, and I'd just say like, in terms of like well-being and music, I think like, yeah, music can be like really wonderful, like to help you with well-being. I think like, I've heard before, like, you know, because I was just thinking like, yeah, maybe if you can join, if key changes, if that's something that you'd like to do, that would be great. But also I've heard like, you know, just like singing in a choir can be really beneficial, you know, maybe, you know, take a dance class or something. Yeah, so there's really like lots, you know, we can do involving music to help us with our mental health.
Yeah.
Great. And yes, I'll be going on Spotify and looking out for you and following you. So I'm looking forward to your next release. So yeah, and thank you for sharing your song with us. And Priya, thank you very much for your beautiful flute playing. So it was a real treat for us all. So I think that's it. I just really a huge thank you to everybody for coming together on this really, really important subject. And I hope when people get a chance to listen to this that they'll pick up an instrument or pick up a paintbrush or get involved or just start talking about mental health a bit more. So I think you will help with that tonight. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Guys, so take care.
Bye all.